What is going on, guys? Joey Franzo here with Flex Training Systems. About a week out from Thanksgiving, and just keeping up with the keys like we've done for the last 5 years. So today, we're going to be talking about choosing a weight class. As you guys know, there are new weight classes, or actually, there are some new weight classes, but mostly returning weight classes coming to USAPL, and of course, the IPF still has their regular weight classes. And it was requested many times to help with this topic, so I'm going to cover it. And I think if you're really doesn't matter what level lifter you are, this will be useful for you because I know a lot of people have trouble deciding if they should go up or down, and I'm going to kind of break it down for you. Before we get into that, I just want to say that we did our pre-orders for our sweaters, and that's all done. And this was the biggest one we've ever done. It's like double, maybe a little over double what we did last time. And I just want to say, I really, really appreciate everybody that picked one up. These sweaters are, it's a premium item. It's not a $20 T-shirt. You know what I mean? So for you guys to come out and pick something up like that, repping Flex, it really just means a lot to me. So I just wanted to take a second to say thanks. Also, there's been people, asking about the workshop. When the next workshop's going to be. I mean, I don't mind trying to sneak one in. November 28th. This will be a programming workshop where we talk about programming in detail. It is meant to enhance your, if you are being coached and you want to get more and understand your training better so you can just be more efficient and just know what to do within your program more effectively, this is for you. If you have people that rely on you for guidance and you want to learn more how we do things over here at Flex, this can also be for you. But it would be November 28th. That's like the only day that I could do it this month. If you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments below. Hey, I'm interested in the workshop. And I will put the inquiry email to get into the workshop. I'm only going to take like 30 people, maybe 20 people. I'm not sure. I'll put that in the comments down below, and yeah, you guys just let me know. And if you guys want to do it that date, then I'll start sending out emails. But anyway, now to get into the video. Choosing a weight class. So again, there's gonna be new weight classes, and before I actually give advice, I just want to say that I see too many just lifters that are too early on in their lifting career suppress their potential by trying to stay in the smaller weight class. Now, sometimes that's going to naturally happen, which is fine. Like if it's hard for you to gain weight and you're making progress steadily, and maybe you're slowly gaining weight, it's not a big deal. But if you have a big frame and you're just like constantly trying to diet to stay in a smaller weight class, you're probably giving up a lot of potential to do that. So it's all about opportunity cost. Like, what are you giving up in order to try to stay in this weight class? And then vice versa. What are you losing by not cutting, right? And I think cutting obviously should be done at certain points. But you need to, there's a lot of factors that determine whether or not you should cut. For example, if you can maintain, I would say, but if you're only losing 1 to 2% of your total strength on a cut, then I say it's worth it. That's still 2% of a 1,500 total is a little amount. It's nothing crazy. It might be worth it, right? You're maintaining most of your gains, and if you could put it on the platform, I mean, let's think about that for a second. So let's say you lose 2% of your total, right? You've like mustered up in the gym or that you're expecting after a peak, and you have a 1,500-pound total. That's 30 pounds off your total, right? That might be significant. Like 30 pounds, that's like it's like 7.5 kilos. Um, it's more than that. It's like 10 kilos per lift, basically, right? Oh, what the heck am I talking about? It's like 5 kilos per lift. Sorry, 5 kilos per lift. Are you okay with giving that up? If you are, then, and you think that'll still land you like pretty competitive in the class below, then maybe it's okay. You just have to kind of assess. Are you gonna lose 3%? Are you gonna lose 4%? Is your squat gonna lose, 5%, but your bench and your deadlift only lose 1%? A lot of this you're gonna have to experiment to figure out. And then you have to figure out what would you gain if you didn't cut. Where would you place? If you would place the same, right? Literally the same. Like it doesn't like maybe like one or two places different, cutting or not. I would just say not. Why would you cut? You know what I mean? Also, if you've never competed without not cutting, you're giving up valuable peaking information that you won't really be able to. Like you're not gonna know how well you truly could have peaked unless you just don't cut, right? Um, there's a lot of lifters that let's say they're like 175 pounds, and we slowly work our way up to the 83s, and then everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden we get over, and we're doing small cuts, and then they get to about 190 body weight, and they're not, they don't really want to cut anymore, and then we don't cut, and then they just like absolutely destroy and annihilate all expectations. Like they're not even the same lifter. They peak way harder on the platform. They just end up hitting numbers that we didn't even get close to in training, right? Then it's kind of like, well, shit, like, why are we even cutting? You know what I mean? Some lifters are going to be good sitting right at the weight class and not cutting. Some lifters are going to be good sitting a little bit over and doing a small cut. Some lifters are going to be very, very skilled and meticulous and have a lot of attention span, and they can really pay attention to all the small details, and they can pull off a huge cut, and they have the time and the effort and the resources and full control of many variables to pull off a big cut and maintain a lot of strength, right? I was just talking to our boy Isaac Whistler. Shout out to Isaac, Wild Man Isaac, right? And he was telling me how, he feels like he has an advantage when he has to cut, because it's harder for a lot of the other guys in his weight class to pull off insanely hard cuts like he does, right? And I would say that it is a skill that you need to get down, and you need to know your body very well to do it. And if you are very, very good at it, and mentally you're just like rock solid, like you just nothing. I'm telling you guys, Isaac has literally been. This is gonna turn out to the Isaac appreciation video. Isaac has literally been like 285, 284, 283. Less than 4 hours out from a meet where he needs to be 264. Mentally, if you have not cut before, you will panic. You are going to be panicking, right? You're going to be freaking out. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm not going to make weight, like da-da-da-da, this and that. But he did it, and he performed well. And it's not for everyone, right? Keiko cuts a lot of weight. Mikey's done big cuts before. Mikey Davis, and Mikey and Isaac are both Flex coaches, by the way. So shout out to them for not only getting it done, but like showing how it's done. Practice what you preach. But Mikey has cut big, like I think like 247 and 231. He might have been heavier than that. I don't remember. I just remember him being in the sauna to the absolute last minute. You know how you weigh in 2 hours before? Well, he had to go all the way to the 30-minute mark before, and he still put all his weight back on, and he still balled out. Like, that is not easy. And you need to mentally have zero emotion and execute. Execute. It is not a fun thing to do. And if you're not prepared to go through that, when I say that it takes up, like, for example, when I decided I wasn't going to cut and just embrace the 120s for a little while, it was amazing how much free mental headspace I had. Like, I don't need to worry about what I'm eating during the week. I don't need to worry about, making sure I have everything I need to do my cut. I don't need to find a sauna. I don't need to constantly drink water. Like, I was free. Like, I could do whatever I wanted. And I just felt like I was going to have a lot more fun with the meat. And I really feel like, at the minimum, at least at some point, try to experience that. Because you might not even care about cutting after you don't cut, right? Another thing that you need to consider is if you are a newer lifter, and we kind of touched on it briefly earlier, and you're constantly suppressing yourself, you're losing all this like muscle gain that you could be having from going up a weight class. Especially you need to look at your height and your frame, right? Look at some of the top lifters in your class. What is their height? You know what I mean? It seems like, like 120, it's like 5'10" is the max. If you're above that, then you need to be big. Like you need to be like you need to really fill out your frame and you need to cut big. You know what I mean? And then it goes lower and lower. 83s, around the 5'8", 5'6", 5'5". 93s, 5'8". You know what I mean? The best ones are 5'8", 5'6". 105s, same thing, kind of similar, 6 feet, maybe. Maybe you get an outlier that's 6 feet, 5'10", 5'8", something like that. So, it's about becoming like weight moves weight, and the more weight you have on for your frame, so your height, the more weight you're going to be able to lift, the better leverage you're going to create as well, right? So I think too many young lifters you should be gaining muscle. That is your priority. You need to gain muscle. Just like younger lifters need to focus a lot on bodybuilding movements, accessories, things like that. It's the same thing. Like get as much muscle on your frame as you possibly can, and then you can start to refine and like kind of, okay, where am I kind of naturally setting? Where do I want to kind of hyper specialize my body to fit? You know what I mean? If you're an older lifter and you've already made most of your progress, you're not getting no more noob gains. You might put on a pound or two of muscle every 18 months, right? Training really fucking hard, being on point. You've been training for over 5, 6, 7 years. It's gonna be very easy for you to make that decision because you're not giving up that muscle gain. You're just, like you're pretty much gonna stay not the same, but you see what I'm saying. It's not really holding your back too much to diet down. Maybe you might want to consider cutting because one, you're good at cutting, and that you're pretty much matured, right? You're pretty much matured. You don't need to focus so much on, I should only care about building up my frame and reaching my potential because you're already there, right? So cutting may not bother you as much. Being in a caloric deficit, you might be able to train your whole maybe 8 weeks leading up in a small deficit, and it doesn't really bother you because, like I said, the amount of muscle you're giving up versus like someone whose body's literally trying to put on muscle but they're not feeding it, it's going to be a lot less. So another thing that I have on here is, are you competitive if you cut? That's another thing. If you're not going to move up substantially in your placement, don't even think about it, right? It's just dumb. It really is. I just don't understand why you would do it. How good are you at cutting? Like I said, if you could get really, really, really good at cutting, it might be something that you want to consider. But if you're a casual lifter, you probably just don't even need to cut ever. Like, why would you do it? A lot of guys at the gym we train at, they don't even care about weight classes. They just train and compete, and they have tons of fun. And their powerlifting experience is a lot better than those guys that are like, maybe they're like 10th through 8th place, and they're struggling to get into the top 5, and they're constantly trying to cut, and powerlifting's just miserable for them. And those are the guys that kind of they're not having fun anymore. They're just so worried about their weight. Like some guys, they're just so worried about making weight, they forget that they actually have to put their weight back on and perform after. Their focus was making weight. For what? Like your focus should be competing and lifting on the platform. Making weight is just like gets you to that point, but it shouldn't be the whole thing. Again, if you haven't done it and you don't really know, you're gonna have to experiment. Are you prepared to potentially botch the meat for a big cut, right? I mean, more often than not, I'd say it's about 50% of the time, 60% of the time, people that have never done a big cut before, they're going to screw something up. They're going to land short of their expectation. There's just so many things that could go wrong, right? There's just so many things. And you got to ask yourself, is it worth it for me to potentially screw up this meet and not hit the numbers I want to hit, to gain the information I need about myself and my body and how I respond to this cut? More often than not, I'll present that to lifters, and they might think about it, and they say, you know what, I don't want to do that. I want to have a good meet. I want to put PRs on the platform. And I'm like, there you go, right? Again, only cut if you stand to gain something, that's what I would say. Like it's got to be worth it. You're giving something up to do this, right? It could also be dangerous from a health perspective. Um, and then you need to consider your training time, bulking versus dieting, right? Like, so how much of your training prep are you going to be in a small surplus or a deficit, right? You need to think about that. If you're going to be training in in a deficit the entire time, there's less return on investment with that whole prep. Like, you're putting in all this time and effort and everything, and you're not even getting your potential because you're not fueling your body. You're purposely starving it. So that's just something that you have to consider, and look at, and just really think about. Right? It's like I said. I think you should cut if you can be very competitive and you're good at it. Then yes, you should do it. But if you're not sure and you're still very new, and you don't have the resources to pull it off, then just don't do it. It's not a pressure thing. You might want to just not cut for a little bit, make a lot of progress, build up a lot of gains, and then you can take a step back and be like, you know what? I only have to cut 6 pounds to the weight class below. Let me try that. Boom, and then you do that, and then you might actually have a really high placement. Who knows? But I think earlier on in your career, it's really important not to diet, not to cut, and put that muscle on. Especially if you're like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, your body's still developing, and it just doesn't make any sense to, like, I have this theory that if your body's still growing and you're dieting, you're going to put on less, like your connective tissues, your bones, everything is just not going to be as prepared and strong to do what you're trying to do as if you were eating more during that time, right? And I'm not really too sure how it works exactly, but once you get to a certain age and your growth plates are finished and you're just not growing anymore, maybe if you would have started younger and a surplus, you could have been a bigger, stronger person. You know what I mean? If you look at children that start like weightlifting super young, like I'm not advocating this. I don't even know. It's just a theory. But if you look at other countries, like I know, like China, Russia, they might start their kids really young for weightlifting, and they're just beasts by the time they get up because they're making adaptations as someone who's already like they spent their whole life working a desk job. If they start weightlifting, they can't get what that kid was able to get because there were stresses imposed on the body during a very maybe adaptive time, maybe a time when it was trying to grow. So it was kind of growing towards the need and the desire. Now that's just a theory. I don't know anything. I'm just throwing stuff out there. But yeah, that being said, I hope you guys were able to find this somewhat useful. I see way too many young guys just like completely destroying their meats for no reason. Like, just have fun. Literally, just have fun, man. Enjoy powerlifting. Make gains. Hit those big milestones. Pull 700 pounds. I don't care if you're a 66, a 74, a 83, whatever weight class. If you pull 700 pounds, you pull 700 pounds. If you bench 400, 500, 315, whatever, you still hit that milestone, right? It don't matter. Most people, they don't care about your weight that much. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But me personally, I squat at 750. I don't give a shit what I weigh, right? I'm a lot smaller now than I was when I did that, but I'll always the rest of my life say, I freaking squatted 750, man. What the heck? At the Arnold too. So, it makes you proud, and then the rest of your life you can always have that milestone. Anyway, once again, thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. This year has been kind of a roller coaster, to be honest. Everything turns out in the end, positive though, and whenever there's uncertainty with the feds or whatever, eventually things work out, and I really think that 2022 is going to be even better. So just like every year, just kind of gets better and better and better, except 2020, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me get a hashtag focus in the comments down below. Workshop people, if you're interested, let me know. And yep, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.